Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about whether or not the COVID authoritarians are lying. A lot of folks on the COVID skeptic side, on my side, sometimes accuse the other side of lying. And I think that's a big mistake. I think there certainly are liars here and there are white liars, those who are pushing out white lies. But I think that is a small portion of what's going on. So let me just mention some of the liars. There are certainly liars who may get that really none of this makes sense, but they're not going to go mention that it doesn't make sense. They might say, no, it all makes sense because they're gaining something. There's certainly people like that. They're filling vacuums, they're leveraging and exploiting the situation for themselves, but I don't think that is really explaining why the damage is happening. The damage is happening not really because of that. And then there's white lies, and these are often told by those who are really swept up in the hysteria, who believe tons and tons of untruths, but they may have realized that, for example, some of the interventions don't work or don't work nearly as well as they've been saying, but they don't want to backtrack, and they are going to justify to themselves, well, I don't want to backtrack because then they'll lose confidence in me, and I'm totally useful for saving the world because I've got this ingenious scheme and so forth. So they are putting forth a white lie, but they are still part of the true believers about what they're doing. And I think overall, though, most of the folks that are opposition here, pushing these authoritarian measures, truly believe what they say, except again for some of these white lies here and there. Now, at this point, most of you should have experienced friends, family, often very close family, employees, neighbors, and millions of people on social media. And many of these people are just regular people, and they believe what they say. They believe that COVID is a disproportionately dangerous virus. Many of them believe, the average person in Australia believed that the infection fatality rate was 38%. The actual average, infection fatality rate is more like 0.15%, 0.1%. These are, or even conservatively 0.2, 0.3%. So these are radically, almost astronomical exaggerations and misunderstandings, but they really believe it. They're not lying to you. These are just friends or neighbors. They're not doing this they're not getting any personal gain. In fact, their lives are being overturned as well. They really are believing what they're saying. It's not a white lie and it's not a lie. And once you realize that regular folks in your life are truly 100% believing this stuff, and again, last July, thinking that 9% of the United States population was already dead from COVID. Well, what makes you think that, the average population who's saying these things is just confused, and they're not liars? And if you're willing to say that, what makes you say that the journalists are lying, and the politicians are lying, and Pfizer is lying, and China is lying? I mean, we have a lot of reasons to doubt these folks, some of these folks, but the simplest story from any kind of scientific perspective is to not presume there's certain special people with special powers. No, all of these people are still, at the end of the day, human, and they're susceptible to the same mass hysteria, mass delusion properties that everybody is in fact, potentially more so. Who's more in a bubble? The neighbor that's just, they're mowing along the lawn, they're living a normal life, they're going to pubs, they have a normal life, or journalists, or academics, or politicians who are wrapped up in these highbrow intellectual universes, academic universes, where they're trying to control and trying to go to these same parties and don't want to look like it's the people that are in fact in these positions that are more likely, not less likely, to be involved in a mass hysteria. There's no reason to suppose that all of these people are misinformed at the bottom in a mass delusion about the dangers of COVID and the benefits of the interventions. But as soon as you go up a level to the people that are more in charge, they're just lying. They know 100% truly what's happening, and they're just messing with us. No, it's the same. It's turtles all the way down. In fact, some of these turtles at the journalist level, at the academics level, at the public policy level, these people are more likely, not less likely, to find themselves within a mass hysteria and within a mass delusion, to be sucked up absorbed by groupthink. They're not lying. You have one takeaway from this is when you're going around arguing with these people, Their lying is one of the worst models that you can have, as we've talked about before. Follow the money is not predictive of what's going on here. It's also not predictive in a mass psychosis like this to presume that the individuals are psychotic or crazy. No, they're not anxious. We didn't have a mass delusion because the individuals were anxious. No, these happen through emergent phenomena by virtue of the way these social networks work and the reputation networks work and so forth. But they're not lying. And you have to understand that if we're going to beat it. And again, as we've talked about before, just because they're not lying and just because they're honestly saying their false beliefs doesn't mean they're not culpable. Public policy folks, intellectuals, journalists, politicians, their job is to be independent and to find the truth and to be aloof and to not let themselves be under the sway of these sorts of things and to have some kind of tie to civil liberties just in case they do go under the sway of these things. So when I want to point out what these true effects are going through society, some of you just think, well, no, you're just trying to defend them. No, this is not trying to defend them. This is trying to understand the true dynamics of what's going on so that you can actually solve the problem. And then that doesn't prevent you from finding the people that are culpable. And that was your science moment.